Hello and a warm welcome to all of you. I welcome you to my channel Pathology Concepts. I am Dr. Mithila Bish, and today we are going to delve into a very important topic in pathology, that is alcoholic liver disease. Now this topic is very important from exam point of view for the MBBS students, as well as it's important from the NEET PG point of view, and many image based questions also come from this topic. In this topic, I will try to make you understand the mechanisms of injury, morphology, and clinical features due to excessive alcohol intake. So let's start with the introduction. So we know that alcohol has got various undesirable effects on our body, especially it causes the hepatocellular damage when consumed in significant amounts. Globally, it is a health burden and accounts for about 5.9% of deaths occurring globally. Now, it's also important to know the amount of alcohol that is dangerous for the liver. So, about more than 80 grams per day of ethanol consumption is associated with significant damage to the liver. And if it is consumed in more than equal to 160 grams per day for 10 to 20 years, that is on a chronic basis, it can overwhelm the capacity of liver and can lead to severe liver injury. Now, it is also important to know that not just the amount of alcohol is important, but also the type of drink one is taking is important, because we have to know the content of alcohol that is going in the body per day. So for that, we need to know the alcohol by volume, that is a percentage of alcohol that is present in each drink. So in beer it is 5%, in malt liquor it is about 7%, in wine about 12%, and in gin, rum, tequila, vodka, whiskey, etc., it has got the maximum alcohol by volume, that is 40%. So these percentages are useful to allow the accurate assessment of daily intake of alcohol by any individual. Now there is an important formula to know the amount of alcohol consumed in grams by any individual. So the formula is volume consumed by the individual per day multiplied by the alcohol percentage, that is alcohol by volume, into the specific gravity of ethanol, that is 0.789 grams per ml, and can also be taken at 0.8 gram per ml. So a question can come like a 40-year-old male consumes 5 pegs of whiskey per day, and what's his alcohol intake in grams? So we can apply the formula. The uptake is 5 pegs. So 1 peg is 30 ml. So 5 pegs is 150 ml. So 150 into, since he is taking whiskey, so it has got 40% alcohol by volume, that is 0.4. So 150 into 0.4 into the specific gravity of ethanol, that is 0.789. So the answer comes as 47.34 gram. So this formula will help you to actually accurately assess the grams of alcohol that is consumed by an individual. So now next we move on to the important topic of how the alcohol is metabolized and the pathogenesis of alcoholic liver disease, how it causes the infliction of injury on the liver. So alcohol on ingestion reaches the gut where it is absorbed, and since the majority of alcohol is metabolized in the liver, it reaches the liver in the hepatocytes. In the hepatocytes, there are 3 enzyme systems which will cause the oxidation of alcohol to acetaldehyde, which we will discuss a little later. Besides that, in the gut, the alcohol affects the gut microbiome, that is, it causes gut dysbiosis. So there is increased absorption of lipopolysaccharides, that is endotoxins, which are synthesized by the gram-negative bacteria, which are overgrowing because of the alcohol, and there is decreased in the beneficial bacteria. There is increase in the gut permeability, because of which these endotoxins, they are absorbed into the bloodstream and they reaches the liver. In the liver, the Kupffer cells, which are the resident macrophages of the liver. They have got the receptors for these endotoxins, and these receptors bind the endotoxins and result in release of cytokines like TNF alpha and interleukins, and they result in the inflammation and thus damage to the hepatocytes. So now let's move on to the next important aspect, that is the metabolism of alcohol that takes place inside a hepatocyte. So we know that the alcohol is maximally metabolized in the liver. So when ethanol reaches the hepatocytes, it undergoes conversion to acetaldehyde, and this takes place in three sites. There are three pathways, and the major conversion of the alcohol to acetaldehyde takes place in the cytosol. So there is an enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase that is present in the cytosol, and it causes the oxidation of alcohol to acetaldehyde. This is a redox reaction, and there is also reduction taking place leading to the formation of increased NADH. So NADH is increased. Now in case the individual takes the alcohol chronically, the other pathways also become functional. So in the microsomes, the cytochrome P450 2E1 enzyme system becomes active, and in this pathway also the alcohol gets converted to acetaldehyde. But the one harmful effect is that in this pathway there is generation of reactive oxygen species. Now these reactive oxygen species, they are highly reactive, and they react with the different components and membranes of the hepatocytes. So because of that, there is hepatocyte injury and lot of oxidative stress in the liver. Now another minor pathway is the one that takes place in the peroxisomes. Here again the ethanol gets converted to acetaldehyde in the presence of enzyme catalase. So these are the three pathways. One occurs in the cytosol, the other in the microsomes, and the third in the peroxisomes. In all the three, the ethanol gets converted to acetaldehyde. Out of these, the pathway of cytosol, that is the most important and the major pathway. So I told you that by all these three pathways, acetaldehyde is formed, and this acetaldehyde is very toxic to the liver cells because this reacts with the different components of the cell like protein, DNA, and it can cause direct hepatotoxic damage. Also, these adducts which are formed, they can also act as neoantigens and can activate the immune system against the liver. So the body has to get rid of this acetaldehyde, and this acetaldehyde is detoxified to form acetic acid in the mitochondria. So in the mitochondria, acetic acid is formed, acetaldehyde is detoxified, and this is again a redox reaction. So again NADH is produced. So in these reactions, there is increase in the NADH synthesis, and NADH to NAD ratio gets increased. The NAD becomes decreased. So this NAD is required for the fatty acid oxidation. So now there will be decreased fatty acid oxidation, and there will be increase in the amount of fatty acids. Similarly, NAD is also required for conversion of lactic acid to pyruvate. So since NAD is less, so there will be increased lactic acid. So there will be lactic acidosis. Now there is one applied aspect of these reactions. So the cytochrome P450 2E1, this system is also important for the metabolism of certain drugs like paracetamol, isoniazid, theophylline, halothane. So one has to be cautious in a patient of alcoholic liver disease while administering these drugs. The second applied aspect is the disulfiram reaction. So disulfiram is a drug that is used to decrease the alcohol dependency. So how does that work? The disulfiram, it is causing the inhibition of the enzyme acetaldehyde dehydrogenase. That is ALDH. So this enzyme is inhibited by disulfiram. So acetaldehyde will not be converted to acetic acid. So there is increased accumulation of acetaldehyde within the liver cell. So buildup of acetaldehyde within the body will cause some unpleasant and irritating symptoms like flushing, headache, nausea, vomiting, and that will discourage the patient to consume alcohol. So that was the second applied aspect. Now we move on to the harm that the alcohol is causing to the liver. So we know that acetaldehyde, it is very toxic and it combines with the different parts of the cell like proteins and DNA to form toxic acetaldehyde adducts. These adducts can cause direct toxicity to the hepatocytes. They can act as neoantigens, stimulate the immune system against the liver. Then they can also stimulate the stellate cells. So these stellate cells, these cells are present between the hepatocytes and the endothelial cell lining. So these cells, generally they synthesize the vitamin A, but when it gets stimulated, so it gets transformed to myofibroblast and then it results in increased fibrosis. And there is increased laying down of collagen 1 and 3. That will result in fibrosis and later on it will cause the alcoholic cirrhosis. Secondly, we already discussed that there is activation of the cytochrome P450-2E1 enzyme system, and in that reaction there is increased generation of reactive oxygen species like the hydroxyl peroxide radicals. So these radicals, they are highly reactive and they combine with the lipid membranes and different parts of the cell, and they cause the oxidative injury to the hepatocytes. Then acetaldehyde also decreases the methionine metabolism, and because of that there is decrease in the glutathione production. Now glutathione is considered as a master antioxidant in the body. So again, when there is decreased glutathione, there will be increase in the oxidative stress causing oxidative injury, again damaging the hepatocytes. Then we discussed earlier that there is increased NADH. So all those reactions which were occurring in the hepatocytes for the metabolism of alcohol, they were redox reactions. The alcohol was getting oxidized and there was reduction of NAD to NADH. So NADH is increased, NADH to NAD ratio is increased. So when there is increased NADH to NAD ratio, there is decrease in the fatty acid oxidation, there is increased lipogenesis. Also there is increase in the peripheral catabolism of fat. So that again increases the circulating pool of lipids that are available for uptake by the hepatocytes. So all that results in steatosis. So in steatosis, these fats, especially the triglycerides, they get accumulated within the hepatocytes and they cause the hepatocyte injury. Now lastly, that we discussed in the first slide, that when alcohol is ingested by the person, so there is increased in the absorption of the lipopolysaccharides or endotoxins in the gut. And this absorption is further increased by estrogen in females. So that is one of the factors why females are more susceptible to damage by the alcohol. So there is endotoxin absorption by the gut. It reaches the liver. In the liver, the lipopolysaccharide receptors, they are present on the Kupffer cells. And these receptors, they are CD14 receptors and associated with toll-like receptors 4. And when these receptor and ligand binds, it causes the release of various cytokines and chemokines like TNF, interleukins, and that causes the inflammation of the liver and the hepatocyte damage. So these were all the mechanisms by which the alcohol is getting metabolized and then it is causing damage to the hepatocytes. The important mechanisms being the formation of acetaldehyde adducts, then activation of cytochrome P450 enzyme system, generation of reactive oxygen species, the decrease in the glutathione, then there is increased NADH to NAD ratio. So all these mechanisms, along with the binding of lipopolysaccharides with the receptors in Kupffer cells, releasing the cytokines and chemokines, all these mechanisms, they are important to understand how the hepatocytes are getting damaged by the consumption of alcohol. So all these mechanisms, I hope you have understood. Now let us move on further. So when the alcohol is causing damage to the liver, there are different stages in which the liver is getting damaged. So in this image, it is depicting the different stages, and these stages are slightly overlapping, and some stages are reversible, some are irreversible. So when there is exposure of normal liver to the alcohol, the initial stage is called steatosis or the fatty liver. So there is fatty change and starting of the perivenular fibrosis. When there is continued exposure, then that can result in cirrhosis. When there is increased fibrosis, collagen laying down, and formation of regenerating nodules. The steatosis, this stage is reversible. This is important. So with abstinence, the fatty liver gets changed to normal liver. Now, when there is severe exposure of alcohol or there is bout of heavy drinking, so with that, there can be hepatitis marked by liver cell necrosis, inflammation, and Mallory body's fatty change we'll study later. So when, again, if the patient is doing abstinence, so still this stage is reversible. But if there are repeated attacks of hepatitis, then that can surely lead to cirrhosis. So we should understand that the most reversible stage is steatosis or fatty liver, and most irreversible stage is cirrhosis. So these are the three stages: steatosis, fatty change, second is alcoholic steatohepatitis, and third is fibrosis leading to cirrhosis, which is often considered the end stage. Now the important point and interesting fact is that cirrhosis develops just in 10 to 15% of alcoholics. So that means about 85 to 90% alcoholics don't develop cirrhosis. So why is that? What is the reason? It means that there are some factors besides the alcohol consumption that play a role in development of cirrhosis. So what are those? The number one factor is gender. So I told you earlier that women are more susceptible to damage by alcohol due to estrogen. So what estrogen does? Estrogen increases the gut permeability to the endotoxins, that is lipopolysaccharides. So they reach more to the liver, and then later on they can cause damage to the liver by the inflammation. Then there is decreased gastric alcohol dehydrogenase in the females. As I told you that this enzyme is also present in the stomach, and that is a part of first pass metabolism. And the third factor is that in females there is increased fat content, and since we know that alcohol is water soluble and females have got more fat content and less water content, so there is less dilution and more concentration of alcohol that goes into the bloodstream of females. So in females, the safe limit has been considered as 14 grams per day, while in the males it is double, that is 28 grams per day. So we should understand the fact that for the same amount of alcohol consumed, the alcohol levels are more in females. So they need to be more cautious when consuming alcohol. Now, secondly, there are ethnic differences and genetic differences. So the alcoholic liver disease, there are more chances of it developing in the African Americans more than Caucasians. Regarding the genetic differences, so there are variation in certain enzymes which are important for the detoxification of alcohol. So there's an enzyme that is aldehyde dehydrogenase. So there's a variety of this enzyme which is seen in about 50% of the Asians. And in such individuals, they are not able to oxidize the acetaldehyde, because of which there is increased acetaldehyde accumulation in these individuals, and because of that there are undesirable effects like flushing, nausea, etc. So that is the role genetic differences play. Now the last important factor is comorbid conditions. So even a person is taking less amount of alcohol, but if they have got some conditions like iron overload, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, or infection by hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus. So such individuals, they are more amenable to liver damage even if they are taking less amount of alcohol. So these are the reason why only 10 to 15% of the patient, they are developing cirrhosis. So that was all about the pathogenesis of alcoholic liver disease. Now we move on to the morphology. Morphology means the gross and microscopic changes that are seen in liver in a patient consuming significant amounts of alcohol. So all these changes, they generally start in the zone 3. Zone 3, that is the zone which is present in the liver near the central vein, that is the central lobular zone. And these changes later extend outward and towards the portal tract. So the first stage is hepatic steatosis or fatty liver. In this, the liver, as you can see, it becomes enlarged, pale, greasy in appearance. The weight of the liver is increased here, and the cut surface is also yellow and greasy. So you can draw a diagram like this, the appearance of the fatty liver, which is soft, yellow, greasy, and the surface is smooth. And it is all because of the accumulation of lipids within the hepatocytes. Now, when we come to the microscopy, so here the liver architecture is preserved. The hepatocytes, they contain the lipid vacuoles. So initially, the small lipid vacuoles are present, and the cells, they have got a foamy appearance like these. You can see this is the nucleus of hepatocyte, and there is a foamy appearance here. Here you can see in these cells, here nucleus is centrally placed and the cytoplasm is foamy vacuolated. So these are microvesicles. But later on, when these lipid droplets coalesce together, they form large lipid droplets and the nucleus is pushed to the periphery. So here you can see this is a cell, this is the nucleus, it is pushed to the periphery and the cytoplasm is clear because of the presence of the lipid vacuole. So in the routine processing, when we are doing the HND stain, the solvents, they dissolve the lipids and they don't take any stain. So they appear as clear. And when we have to demonstrate the fat, then we have to use special stains on the frozen sections. In the frozen sections, we are not using those solvents. So the lipid does not get washed away and we can demonstrate the lipids. So those special stains are oil, red O, which gives a red color, then Sudan black B, and also Sudan 3 and Sudan 4. So all these are special stains which can be used to demonstrate the fat in these liver cells, and these are very important from the viva point of view. Now, this is a schematic diagram of fatty liver, hand-drawn diagram. So here I have drawn these hepatocytes. These are the microvesicular hepatocytes, microvesicular steatosis. So here the hepatocyte, it is showing the multiple vacuoles. And in the macrovesicles, the nucleus is pushed to the periphery. So these are the macrovesicles. And these are, in this, the nucleus is pushed to the periphery and the cytoplasm is cleared. So this is how you can make a diagram of fatty liver, and this is the central vein in the center. Now, one interesting fact that the steatosis can also be seen in case of certain drugs like methotrexate and glucocorticoids. They can also induce steatosis in the liver cells. Now, this is the special stain that I was talking about. So, this is oil red O. And here you can see these hepatocytes which are containing these lipid droplets. So all these are lipid droplets demonstrated by the stain oil red O. So this can very well come in the image based questions. So that is all about the fatty liver. It is important to know that all these changes are reversible in case there is abstinence of alcohol. The second stage is alcoholic hepatitis. It occurs when there is heavy drinking or repeated bouts of heavy drinking. So the liver damage progresses to alcoholic hepatitis. In this, the important point is hepatitis, that is inflammation of the liver. And inflammation of the liver is causing the injury to the hepatocytes. At the same time, there is oxidative damage, which is also causing injury to the hepatocytes. Because of this injury, certain changes are seen in the hepatocytes. The important one being ballooned hepatocytes. So there is ballooning of the hepatocytes. Ballooning means swelling up of hepatocytes. And there is injury to the cytoskeleton of the hepatocyte. Because of that injury, there is collapsed intermediate filaments, mainly cytokeratin 8 and 18. So these tangled intermediate filaments, they are seen as Mallory-Hyaline body. So here you can see there is a hepatocyte, there is a nucleus, and the cytoplasm is vacuolated and the cell is swollen. And this is a ballooning degeneration of the hepatocytes. And in this cell, another cell where we can see there is a pink colored eosinophilic body. This is Mallory-Hyaline. So also known as Mallory-Dank bodies, and they are nothing but ubiquinated keratins, cytokeratin 8 and 18. So it is an important characteristic feature which is seen in alcoholic hepatitis, but they are not just specific for ALD. They can also be seen in other conditions like non-alcoholic fatty liver, Wilson's disease. We'll discuss further. Now, because of inflammation, we can also see the presence of inflammatory infiltrate, mainly neutrophils. So neutrophils are present more than we see in non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, and these neutrophils, they are clustered around the ballooned hepatocytes. So here you can see these are ballooned hepatocytes, all these, and here there are the neutrophils. You can identify the neutrophils by the presence of the lobes. So there are lobes in the nucleus. These are the neutrophils. Besides the neutrophils, we can also see lymphocytes and macrophages along the portal tracts. So the important characteristics are ballooned hepatocytes, then Mallory-Hyaline body, and features of inflammation. Now, in these images are important from the exam point of view, from the NEET PG point of view. So this Mallory-Hyaline body or Mallory-Dank body, it has got a twisted rope appearance. So there it is thick, eosinophilic, and seen in a ballooned hepatocytes. So you can see, and all these are hepatocytes showing the ballooning degeneration. Here there are some cells which are also showing the macrovesicular steatosis. So fatty change can also be seen in the hepatocytes because the fatty change is another feature of alcoholic liver disease. Now again, these are ballooned hepatocytes. In this image, we can also appreciate these inflammatory cells which are cluttered around in the section. Now there is an image in the inset. Now this image shows staining of ISC by the cytokeratins. So these are the normal hepatocytes with the normal cytoskeletal framework. But here in this hepatocyte, the cytoskeleton network, it has collapsed and resulting in the formation of this Mallory-Hyaline body. So the ubiquinated keratins, they collapse to form the Mallory-Hyaline body in the affected cells, while these cells are normal. And some of the cells are also showing these fat vacuoles. So I hope you understood these images and the concept of alcoholic hepatitis. So next, the important conditions where Mellary-Hyaline bodies can be seen. So I told you that Mellary-Hyaline bodies, they are seen in alcoholic liver disease, especially in alcoholic steatohepatitis, but they are not specific for alcoholic liver disease. So they can also be seen in conditions like Wilson's disease, Indian childhood cirrhosis, alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, primary biliary cirrhosis, and hepatocellular carcinoma. So you have to remember these conditions can come in the MCQs. Now the other changes seen in alcoholic steatohepatitis. So next is necrosis. Because of the intense inflammation and damage to the hepatocytes, there is necrosis which can be seen. And then there is fibrosis. So fibrosis is perivenular, and it is also seen around the cells. So it again starts in the zone 3 and extends outwards. So first it is perisinusoidal, then periportal, then results in bridging fibrosis. And this fibrosis has got a chicken wire appearance. So you can see this is a chicken wire. And since the fibrosis is seen around the individual hepatocytes, so when this fibrosis is seen around the liver cells, so it has got this chicken wire appearance. So you see this figure, this is the fibrosis. This is a special stain, Mason trichome stain, and it is giving the fibrosis a blue color. So this is the appearance of chicken wire which can be seen. Again in this image you can see these are the fibrous strands and they are forming these round structures. So this is chicken wire appearance that is seen in the fibrosis of alcoholic liver disease. Now let us have a look at some conditions where this chicken wire pattern is seen. This is important from the MCQ point of view. So we learned that chicken wire fibrosis is seen in alcoholic steatohepatitis. Besides this, the chicken wire appearance in the immunofluorescence is seen in pemphigus vulgaris. This is a finding of immunofluorescence. Then in a benign tumor of cartilage, that is chondroblastoma, again we see this chicken wire calcification. So here you can see all this is chicken wire pattern. Besides this, the chicken wire blood vessels, they are seen in two conditions. One is oligodendroglioma, a CNS tumor, and mucinous carcinoma of breast. In the FNAC, we can see these chicken wire blood vessels. So all these conditions you should remember because they can come in the MCQ or image-based question. Now, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, it is difficult to differentiate from alcoholic steatohepatitis without a history of alcohol consumption. So the history of alcohol is very critical, which will be absent in this. Now, some features like steatosis, that is a more prominent feature of NASH, that is the fatty change is more commonly seen in NASH, while the ballooning degeneration and the Mallory-Dank bodies and the inflammation, especially by the neutrophils, it is more prominent in the alcoholic steatohepatitis, but the history of alcohol is of utmost importance. Now we move on to the last stage of the alcoholic liver disease, that is alcoholic cirrhosis. So the fibrosis that starts in alcoholic steatohepatitis with continued fibrosis, bridging fibrosis, it later on progresses to cirrhosis. In cirrhosis, there is diffuse remodeling of the liver. There is formation of numerous parenchymal nodules. Importantly, there is architectural distortion and lots of vascular derangements because there are lots of fibrosis that is going on within the hepatocytes, and there is obliteration of the blood vessels. So because of that, there are veno-occlusive lesions also, and there are very less chances of restoring to the normal functions. Complete regression of alcoholic cirrhosis is very rare. So we move on to the morphology of cirrhosis. So in cirrhosis, the liver becomes nodular. So you can see this is a surface of liver, and there is also bile stresses because of which there is a greenish in color. And all these are nodules seen on the surface. So the nodules are divided into two types. One is macronodule, which is less than 3 mm in size, and macronodules, which are more than 3 millimeter. In the gross examination, we can see these nodules and the scar appearance. Now there is a special appearance that is seen in the gross examination of the liver cirrhosis because of the presence of these nodules. This appearance is known as hobnail appearance. So hobnail is a special kind of nail that is often used in the sole of the shoes. So this appearance is similar to the nodular appearance of the liver in case of cirrhosis. So it is known as the hobnail appearance. You have to remember this term can come in the MCQs. Now we come to the microscopy of hepatic cirrhosis. So here the important point is the architecture effacement. So we know that the liver is composed of many hexagonal lobules with the central vein in the center. So this hexagonal lobules, this architecture is lost and the liver is divided into multiple nodules. These are the regenerating nodules composed of hepatocytes. Some of them may show the fatty change also. And these regenerating nodules of hepatocytes, they are separated by fibrosis. And there is also laying down of the collagen in these septa. In the later stages, there can be ductular proliferation in these septa also. So we can see the multiple ductules in the septa. So these are the important points of consideration in the microscopy. Now this is a special stain that is Mason trichome. This stain is used to highlight the fibrosis that is seen in cirrhosis. So here you can see these are the regenerative nodules of hepatocytes and these are separated by this fibrosis. All this blue color is fibrosis. So that was all about these 3 stages of alcoholic liver disease. So in nutshell, alcoholic liver disease, it shows steatosis, neutrophilic infiltrate, Mallory bodies, and sometimes on cessation of drinking, some changes even might not be seen. In the last stage, the liver architecture is effaced and it is converted to the multiple nodules which are separated by collagen and fibrosis. And this stage is often irreversible, known as cirrhosis. So that was all about the morphology of alcoholic liver disease. Now we move on to the clinical pearls, that is the clinical features that we will see in all these stages. So the earliest stage, that is steatosis or fatty liver, it is often reversible and patient is often asymptomatic, can present with nausea, mild jaundice, right quadrant discomfort, and this stage is reversible with adequate diet and abstinence of alcohol, and severe hepatic dysfunction is very unusual in this stage. Now in the lab investigations, the enzymes may be mildly raised, so there can be raised ALP, alkaline phosphatase, and aspartate transaminase more than alanine transaminase. Why? Because there is the mitochondrial damage in alcoholic liver disease and the mitochondria houses this enzyme EST. So EST is more than ALT in case of alcoholic liver disease. It is important to know. Now also the alcohol intake, it induces the gamma glutamyl transferase production. So GGT is also will be increased, but it is again not a specific marker in the lab investigation, but it is sensitive. So it's also known as a biomarker of alcoholic liver disease. So the important point in this earlier stage is that there can be the hepatomegaly, there can be right upper quadrant discomfort, there can be mildly raised serum bilirubin, mildly raised enzymes, ALP, AST, ALT, but there will be no hepatic dysfunction and this stage is completely reversible. Now the next stage is alcoholic steatohepatitis. And in this stage, clinically, it can be acute in onset. Often it occurs after a bout of heavy drinking and can present with jaundice, fever, nausea, vomiting, and in some cases which progress to severity, patient can also go into severe conditions like hepatic coma, hepatic encephalopathy, hepatorenal syndrome. Now in the lab investigation, again the AST is raised more than ALT and this ratio can be more than 2:1. This is important for the diagnosis of alcoholic liver disease. So in the conditions like viral hepatitis or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, so ALT will be seen more than AST, but only in alcoholic liver disease it is the reverse because of the mitochondrial damage. Then in the differential leukocyte count, there can be neutrophilia. We have seen the neutrophils were also seen in the liver parenchyma in case of alcoholic steatohepatitis. So this is the second stage, alcoholic steatohepatitis, and the prognosis is unpredictable, and there is 10 to 20% risk of death. And with the repeated bouts of alcoholic hepatitis, cirrhosis will develop in about 1/3 of the patients within few years. Now, in the last stage, that is alcoholic cirrhosis. So it is similar to the other non-alcoholic causes of cirrhosis also. In the laboratory findings, there is severe liver dysfunction, raised enzymes, the transaminases will be raised, ALP will be raised, bilirubin will be raised, and then proteins will be decreased. So there is decreased synthetic function of the liver. So there is hypoproteinemia, albumin, globulins, clotting factors, they all will be decreased. There will be anemia. Then PT, APTT will be raised because of, again, the decreased synthesis of the clotting factors. And so now there is, in the cirrhosis, there is increased fibrosis within the liver, and there is veno-occlusive disease resulting in portal hypertension. So the portal hypertension can present with the esophageal varices, GI hemorrhage, there can be splenomegaly. So all these symptoms and signs can be seen. In addition, we can have hepatic encephalopathy, hepatic coma, that can also be seen. Now, in some terminal cases, the enzyme levels may even come down or even normalize because of the severe decline in the synthetic and metabolic function of the liver. Since little functional tissue is left, so sometimes even these enzyme levels can be normal, but that is seen in the end stage. Now we move on to the last topic, that is causes of death. So in a case of alcoholic liver disease, if we talk about the prognosis, the 5-year survival rate, it approaches about 90% in the abstainers who are free of jaundice or ascites or hematemesis. While if the patient continues to take the drink, then this percentage drops down to 50 to 60%. So the abstinence of alcohol is critical to determine the prognosis of the patient. Now the patient can die of hepatic coma, massive GI hemorrhage, there can be intercurrent infection, hepatorenal syndrome where kidney is affected secondarily to the liver damage, and lastly there can be hepatocellular carcinoma, which is very commonly associated with cirrhosis. So these are the causes of death that are seen in alcoholic cirrhosis. To conclude, the alcoholic liver disease comprises of a spectrum of diseases due to chronic alcohol consumption. Consumption of 80 grams per day increases the risk of severe liver disease. Consumption of significant amount of alcohol can result in alcoholic steatosis, later can progress to alcoholic hepatitis, and the fibrosis that occurs in the alcoholic hepatitis can progress and lead to cirrhosis, which is often considered the last stage. Since the alcohol is majorly metabolized in the liver, so consumption of alcohol has got a deleterious effect on the hepatocytes. And in this we studied the different mechanisms by which the liver cells are getting damaged. So there is formation of acetaldehyde adducts, which are directly hepatotoxic, and they are also stimulating the stellate cells to cause fibrosis. There is increased gut absorption of endotoxins, which bind to the Kupffer cells and cause the inflammation. There is increased lipogenesis, which is due to increased NADH to NAD ratio. There is increased peripheral catabolism of lipids as well. Then there is increased oxidative damage due to activation of the cytochrome P450 2E1 enzyme, and also because of decreased glutathione. So all these factors, they result in the damage of liver cells and causes the spectrum of the diseases that are there. So I hope the pathogenesis of alcoholic liver disease was clear to you and you are able to understand the morphology and clinical features associated with the disease spectrum. And in the coming lectures, I'll be taking non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and later on viral hepatitis. So I hope the lecture was clear to you. Thank you very much for all the love you give to my channel, and I hope to bring more and more videos on the important topics regularly, and your feedback is most welcome. Thank you very much.